Hello again, operators. I have a little different video for you today. So, I've been looking around YouTube, and I found a great many guides for Escape from Tarkov that covers everything from your beginning loadouts, money runs, and even methods for leveling faster. But something I'm rather surprised to find is that nobody is teaching you how to approach a firefight or how to plan your raids. You see, most people think the game works for you if you just drop into raids with no clear plan in mind, save that you need to go grab a specific item and leave the raid with it. Now, this works to a degree, but pre-planning is a guarantee to increase your survival rate, which in turn increases your money income, decreases your loss from losing kits, and prepares you for any possible contact and lowers the number of situations that you are not prepared for. So today, I'm going to show you how I plan out my raids. Of course, I'm not going to show you a raid where absolutely nothing happens, but this raid is fairly moderate in terms of real action, which was by design. I chose a route designed to mitigate possible encounters. It's impossible to fully eliminate the possibility of engagement, but here we choose a well-known route to us that we can follow relatively closely, but still have room to maneuver and adapt in the event of contact. Now, the kit we're choosing to take is fairly expensive in terms of our objective, but again, it's selected by design. It's a kit that allows us to play up close in vegetation, or take engagements at great range if we get a good spawn for it. We're avoiding the resort completely, there's nothing we want there this raid. So what is our objective? It's simple. We're looking to gather some materials for our hideout crafts, and our best source of these materials will be the stashes scattered throughout the map. We've used these several times before, and we have the locations memorized. This route I'm taking is one I've ran multiple times, but I still go through the process of planning it out to be safe. So, let's bring up the map, and let me show you the plan. Our process is very simple. We start with what we're hoping to gain from the raid, or as we'll call it, our primary objective. We're designating the primary objective as material collection, stashes as the main target. We don't have any real secondary objectives in terms of specific tasks or items to collect. So for this raid, the secondary objective is to look for favorable engagements to grab extra gear from players or survive the raid at all costs. Secondary objectives are not necessary, but in our case, we're giving ourselves these to give us something a little more dynamic to work with in terms of our operational guideline. Very basic. We're not doing the first video as anything crazy. Simple plan, simple raid. With random spawns, it can be hard to plan a specific route without prior map knowledge. So, let's plan our raid. We have two possible sides of the map that we can spawn on, each with a few specific spots that are possible. Again, we're keeping it simple. We will designate a point A and a point B, the start and finish. This is adaptable to whichever map side we spawn on. Once we spawn and determine our point A, we will then follow the planned route. As you can see, we're heading along the edge of the map for a good portion of this route. We're hoping to avoid contact, so we're choosing a route that is less contested overall. With the volatility of raids in Tarkov, we have a few waypoints in mind to recheck the route viability. This can be determined by contacts made, audio information, time in raid, and even current loot or energy and hydration levels. Even though we have a plan, we're still staying dynamic. We need to adapt as necessary. Now that you can see the route, the kit is the next stage of the plan. Here's what we choose to go with. I won't go too deep into detail since we spent a lot of time on the previous planning stage, but know that there's a great deal of thought that goes into every piece of the kit. Suffice it to say, we're packing an SVD for ranged engagement. We got red dot in case someone is too close to glass. A shrimp is our reliable backup. The rig and helmet we chose on personal preference, and the backpack is large to maximize our total gain from the raid. Note that the pack is large and stands out. If we get a spawn that favors setting up a nest over a traffic area, we will drop this pack nearby to lower our profile. We retrieve it after our business is done every time. Now, let's get into the raid. Okay, pause that, pause that. Now, going back over this in the recording, it seems a little bit hard to hear what I heard in the game, and I'm not quite sure why. But I want to let you know that there was indeed a sound as we're looting there. It's very subtle, though. Very, very subtle. There's just a simple step that we hear on a little bit of dirt or gravel. Can't really remember what it is. But make sure that even when you're looting, you always want to pay attention to the smallest sounds. Don't ever be complacent when you're in a raid. Alright, for the purposes of this raid, this is what I designated as my first checkpoint. Now, there's a couple different reasons why you have different checkpoints, and I didn't want to make this like super formal, have a long drawn out script for this, so I'm just going to put it out the way that I'm thinking about it off the top of my head. Basically, I am checking to see if there's a scav with the sniper up here on this rock. He has a good view of basically everything within about a 50-meter radius around him that he will engage, even if it's in a bush. The fact that this scav is not engaging anyone and doesn't seem too concerned, probably just reacting to sounds from the resort, means that most likely we are safe in this area. Now, I can choose to leave him up as an early warning beacon, as I've done in previous videos, or I can choose to take him out to have safe passage. In this case, we're going to take him out so that we can keep moving. Okay, mistake time. Here it is. I had the incorrect range setting on this. That is a thing you can do in this game if you're not aware. When you're aiming, you can press page up and page down to adjust the range. Most rifle sights will be going in increments of 50 meters each. So you go from 50 to 100, from 100 to 150, so on and so forth. This shot ends up being a 200 meter range that I wasn't quite aware of, and I wasn't thinking quite clearly, because this was the first raid of the day. I was a little tired and wasn't thinking quite right, which is why I switched down to 50 meters, which clearly didn't hit anything. So just make sure that you keep in mind that you judge your distances when you're doing longer range or mid-range engagements like this. Most of the time when you're missing, it's because you have the incorrect range setting for that range. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so what we're doing here is we've gone a certain distance. Now we're kind of checking our backs, doing like a little rear security. We're waiting for a bit to see if we catch anyone kind of following us. And we're using a spot that used to be popular before Shoreline was a full-on map, where it was just half the size it was. This used to be an exit camping spot. It doesn't get used very often, and not a lot of people really look this way either. So this is a great place to post up and look behind you before you continue moving on. Just a quick note watching this here. This is a spot that not a lot of people know about. There's a little hidden stash back here, way tucked into the corner, that you have to go prone to access. I don't always recommend going for this one, mostly because it's very exposed. Most of the time, if someone sees you coming this way, you're probably dead because you have nothing to really protect you. But if you're fairly confident that you're safe like I am here, you can come over here and easily take this, and it usually has pretty good stuff like most of the stashes before you're moving on. Otherwise, the rest of this, each of these stashes I recommend going to. This is the only one that I would suggest not hitting up if you feel unsafe. Alright, react to contact. That's basically what this is, okay? This is a perfect example of it. We executed it almost flawlessly. There were a couple of things that we could have done better, but essentially we did everything the correct way because we survived. Now, there's a few techniques we're going to go over. So the first one is point firing. Now, there's been a lot of debates on this. Is point fire better than aiming down sights? You know, in what situations do you use them? Which one is better for which gun? I'm not really going into that. I'm just going over what I've practiced and what I've done. So in this instance, we choose to do a point fire because it was an immediate contact to our front that's very close. We don't have time to aim and line up a perfect shot. We got to take some shots at him to try to either suppress him or kill him. We end up actually killing him because we had very accurate point fire there. We're not doing, like, laser sights. I don't have anything on my monitor. It's just an intuitive thing that we're doing here, alright? I recommend practicing with this in the firing range on offline mode. It's going to save your life. Now, the second technique, this is one that's not very often used, and it's kind of a dirty move. So the first guy drops, and then we see the second guy behind starting to take shots. So we go prone immediately, switching to our handgun, and then we hold still. This is actually on purpose. The reason for this is because we are feigning being dead. Now, not everybody falls for this, and this is a very risky move to make. The only reason we made this move is because of the hill between us and the grass. It obscures vision, so when we go prone, he can't see exactly how we look. And if he takes a few more shots and we didn't react at all, he can assume that we're dead. Which, he pauses, and I don't think he needed to reload. He didn't shoot that many times. And then we're able to stand up in the pause, get a good sight picture, aim our gun, and then start taking shots back at him so that we can move to a better spot. We end up moving up, which is great. Now, the only issue here is instead of moving up, we should have immediately backed up, even though we're giving up the body of loot. The reason you would do this is just for safety reasons, but here we're being a little greedy. But once we see the body and we look at it thinking, that's actually not as good as I thought it was, we have our brain come back to us, and then we actually take a wide flank over. We post up on a hill that can overlook the wide valley that he would never go out into to get away if he has a brain. And we just kind of watch for him. We don't end up finding him. Spoiler alert. He's nowhere to be found. He's just gone. So we just carry on with our original plan after this slight change to our route. Now, you're going to notice that I don't immediately walk away from this, and that's why we're going to be speeding it up. I actually take a few points, like waypoints essentially, and I look in that area again, just seeing if I can maybe catch him, try to be safe, and then I actually carry on with the original plan once I get to a certain point. You're going to notice that in my behavior as I get a little bit past the resort. So there's a lot of dead time in here. The rest of it takes about 10-15 minutes, somewhere in there. I didn't really keep track. So I'll just kind of tell you the reasoning that we're going with here. Like I said, here we're still kind of checking for the dude. We end up spending about 4 minutes. Very patient. We're very concerned about safety. We want to survive. You'll notice my head goes left to right a lot. Every time there's a sound, I'm trying to identify the direction using stereo sound. Tarkov doesn't have surround sound, unfortunately, right now. Steam Audio is supposed to fix that. Until then, that's what you gotta do if you want to identify directions. Here we got a little cabin. It's got a couple boxes in it. The shelves can have a few things sometimes. I wouldn't come here all the time, but since it was just on the way, we might as well pick it up, because why not? Here we're gonna post up in this bush. This is our other waypoint where we're kind of checking things. Unlike the other waypoints, nothing of note really happens, which is what gives us the go-ahead to just continue on. And we're not going in a straight line. We're kind of bobbing and weaving a little bit, staying in concealment and cover when we can. We're hitting up all these stashes. The stashes are our main goal for this. So we're just kind of zigzagging in between. We're kind of going in straight lines from stash to stash, which is fine, because the stashes are in such odd locations that straight lines in these are still zigzags in common routes from, you know, spawns to shoreline, shoreline to extractions, people that are scav hunting. Not a lot of people are going to just stick to these hidden stashes as much, which is what we're doing right now. So basically, we're going through and we're looting as fast as we can. Every time something comes up, we hit control and left click. That'll put it immediately into our inventory. We don't want to stick around in any one spot for too long, you know, just because we don't think we're going to get shot. We don't think anyone's watching us, but it never hurts to be safe. So then here, we're kind of doing something I normally wouldn't do. We're cresting a hill and going very straight to where our next location is. There's really no good reason for doing this other than I'm just lazy. If I really wanted to be safe, I would have gone down into the dips and stayed off of the very tops of each of the hills. Although I do redeem it by checking that tower to see if there's a scav running around. There really wasn't. Picked up another gun there. These stashes are really good if you're low on money. They'll have random items, a lot of trade items. You see there's been a few Ketters, AKs. I found an MDR the other day. That was pretty great. Here, we're just kind of sticking to the edge of the map. Not really a whole lot to say here. Other than just make sure when you're moving, you just kind of keep in mind scavs do spawn in this area. You can get players that'll exit camp occasionally. Just kind of work with it. There's not a whole lot you can really do to prevent exit camping, but you can do a lot to combat exit camping. And the biggest thing that shuts down exit campers is just to pay attention. And that was just kind of one example of a typical shoreline money raid that I do. You tend to get a little bit of action now that people are aware of where the stashes are and that they don't have to go to the resort to get the big bucks. But I'm hoping that this gives you a little bit of an idea of how I think about my raids, and maybe you can use some of what you like about it in your own. Maybe you don't like any of it at all. You can theory craft with this. It's all up to you. This is just kind of requested that I go a little bit more in depth in these. Just let me know if you like it. I am just kind of showing you a little bit of what we made from that. It's not huge, but it's still profit because we didn't end up dying. Our armor wasn't really that damaged either. So I typically like Shoreline for my money rates, but a lot of people really don't like Shoreline. So just kind of find a map that you like, that you can know really well, and use that map knowledge to your advantage. That's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoy. Remember, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I always post my schedule updates. I'm always live on Twitch. Every week I have a weekly schedule. You can follow me on Facebook as well. I have a Discord server that I'm currently working on, and once it's released, I'll be announcing that. And yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. And remember, stay safe out there, operators.